All right. So I brought this to y'all. This is another update as well. I brought this to you on the No Middleman panel where I do my segment on the radar with rain. And we talked about this a couple of weeks ago. So this case, it never sits right. It is at the intersection of crime, court procedure, age, accountability, and grief. Now, this is the case involving 18-year-old Anna Kathleen, who died aboard a Carnival cruise ship back in November, I think, of 24, if I'm not mistaken. Her 16-year-old stepbrother, Timothy Hudson, has been charged with first-degree murder and aggravated sexual abuse, or SA. He has pleaded not guilty. A federal judge recently allowed him to remain out of jail for now while the case moves forward under conditions set by the court. And this is where the public gets divided. I'm divided on that as well. One side says people hear the charges and say, how is he not detained? The other side is saying, hey, this is a young man, until the case is proved, then he should go to he should go to jail. We're talking about a young woman who lost her life during what was supposed to be a family trip. So the legal system is also looking at the fact that the accused is a minor, that he has pleaded not guilty, and that the courts have to consider the risk, the evidence, the supervision, the due process, all that before trial. So that's the pressure point, right? Because in the court of public opinion, people react emotionally. Honestly, in this case, as in most cases, you can understand why. A family is grieving, a young woman is gone, the details are highly disturbing, but in an actual courtroom, the judge has to make those decisions based on legal standards, not just public outrage. That does not mean that the court has to like that decision at all as well, or that the people have to like the decision that the court making. But it does mean that we have to understand what is being weighed, and that's age, public safety, flight risk, the seriousness of the charges, the rights of the accused, the pain of the victim's family, all of that mixed in. So the question here is, when the accused is a teenager, but the charges are adult level serious, how should the justice system respond? Does the youth change the way we look at detention, or should the seriousness of the accusation outweigh everything else? So I'm gonna bring that video up so we can look at recent information on that case. There we go.
Killing his stepsister on a cruise ship will remain in the custody of a family member as he awaits trial.
16-year-old Timothy Hudson left federal court earlier in Miami after a federal judge decided not to send him to jail. Hudson has pleaded not guilty to charges of aggravated sexual abuse and first-degree murder in the death of his 18-year-old stepsister, Anna Kathleen. He was initially arrested and charged as a juvenile, but will now be tried as an adult.
Let's bring in NBC News correspondent George Solis. George, Anna was killed last November while she was on a cruise vacation with her family. We covered the story then. Remind us what we know about this case and what happened in court today.
Yeah, Cadence and Clay, this was a very unusual case, if you will, in terms of some of the details, especially since this was initially tried. Timothy Hudson was initially tried as a juvenile, then this moved into adult court, essentially, and the judge making note that this is unusual because, again, in these cases, you don't really see minors being prosecuted in federal court, but because this happened in international waters, this is sort of where it landed. And in short today, the judge saying he really wants to look at this a little bit more closely before making any final determination, considering that this is all taking place in South Florida. He was currently remanded in custody with his uncle and his wife in Central Florida. And you see the charges there. He's facing first-degree murder, aggravated sex abuse charges. Some of the details in court today, almost too graphic to say out loud. But right now, it seems like the judge is going to allow him to stay under that monitoring with his family while he appoints U.S. Marshals to see, again, if there is a facility somewhere in Central Florida that Timothy Hudson could stay before this eventually goes to trial, guys.
And to that end, when are we expecting this trial to begin, and what are the next steps in this legal process?
Yeah, so right now, again, he'll be under monitoring with his family, and the judge really didn't let it be known whether or not when this case might be presented before him again. I think it really depends now at this point if they're able to find that facility. The judge noting that, and the defense really noting that he's already been in their custody and that nothing has happened. But again, prosecutors here from the government making it clear that based on some of the information and what they've learned here, they do believe he is a flight risk and a serious threat to some of the people around him.
So if he's a flight risk and he's a serious threat to some of the people around him, then why is he free? Let's finish listening up.
The judge did not see it that way at this point. So there's still so many more questions here. And quickly of note here, the judge was presented with some new timeline details about what happened, saying based on some of the information they learned, this all took place within about 2 hours. And there may have even been another person involved in the death of Anna Kathleen. So again, a lot more questions than answers at this point. And again, for the short term, it seems like Timothy Hudson will still be in custody with his family before this case ever gets to trial. Guys.
George Solis, thank you.
Well, so he is, let me ask y'all this, and I hate to bring this up. The young man, he's a white young man. Should this have had been a black young man? Will it be different? Or any other race other than white? I wanted to bring that up. I just want to give me your thoughts on the rewatch if you're not in the chat, if you don't want to answer. If you're catching this on the rewatch, give me your thoughts on this. Because yeah. So this is why I call my segment Policy and Pressure, because the policy may say one thing, but the pressure from the public, the victim's family, and the weight of the case says something else.